Today we are going to be comparing the Jester Classic to the Jester RR in a series of different challenges. First will be a brake test, a few different types of speed tests. We're going to compare their upgrade potential as well, along with a track test to see how both these vehicles can perform on a fairly challenging track. You'll see what I mean. With that said, I hope you guys go on to enjoy the video. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said, the first test is going to be a brake test. Now I set both cars' top speed to 100 miles per hour. They literally cannot go over it. And pretty much, I'm just going to drive them dead straight, and the second they go past this wooden pole, I'm going to slam on the brakes. And we're just going to compare how far apart they are. We're going to be doing 3 different tests along with comparing it to some other vehicles in GTA 5. So let's get into it. For the very first one, let's start off with the Jester RR. You can see, honestly, it's not that great. It took a while to brake. Like, that's a pretty decent distance away. But then again, it was going about 100 miles per hour. So taking a look now at the Jester Classic, you can see both cars pretty much stop at the exact same point. The Jester Classic is just a little bit further ahead, but still, it's just probably a little bit of user error. Honestly, they're practically the same, but let's try it out 2 more times. The second round of this test, the Jester RR practically did the exact same, but the Jester Classic did much better. I might have braked a little bit early, but I honestly thought I braked at the exact perfect time. But you can see the Jester RR is much further ahead, so let's do it one more time. Once again, the Jester RR is practically in the exact same spot, and the Jester Classic pulls up, and it's practically the exact same as the first test. It's just a tiny bit further ahead. And then when you compare it to some other cars, like for instance the Pariah, which honestly drifts around a lot, doesn't really have the best traction, it still practically does the exact same. In terms of braking in GTA 5, it doesn't matter how heavy the car is or anything like that. All the cars are practically the exact same. Like, these 2 cars are tying with one of the best supercars in the game. So at least now we know the Jester RR's braking is pretty good, and it's up to par with practically every other car in the game. Next up is going to be a top speed test. We are on an infinite drag strip. This shit goes super far. I fully maxed out both the cars and reset their speeds so they can reach their full maximum potential in terms of top speeds. And we're just going to start driving down this track and see the top speeds of both cars. Let's find out what happens. Starting off with the Jester RR. Now this car reached a top speed of 122 miles per hour. And by the way, I just wanted to let you guys know something. You probably have seen me do some other videos of testing brands versus other brands in GTA 5. And some people say, oh, you're swerving so much, that's affecting it. It does not affect it. You're going to see me swerve this car around and also swerve the Jester Classic around, and the speed does not change. It stays the exact same. It doesn't drop whatsoever. It doesn't have any effect unless you're swerving really sharply. If you're just swerving back and forth, it really doesn't make too much of a difference as long as you're still practically driving in a straight line. But if you're swerving super sharp to the left and to the right, then obviously it'll make a difference. But anyways, the top speed for the Jester RR is 122 miles per hour. And the Jester Classic got a top speed of 119 miles per hour, just 3 miles per hour slower than the Jester RR. Honestly, it doesn't really make too much of a difference when you're doing normal races in GTA 5. The only time it'll make a real difference is when you're doing a drag race at the airport from the very end all the way to the other end of the runway, like maximizing the distance, or playing a specific race where there is a long drag strip just like this. It really doesn't make too much of a difference in terms of actual normal races, but still the Jester RR does have a higher top speed, so we're going to give it the dub for this one. Now let's try a quarter-mile drag race. Once again, both of the cars are fully upgraded in terms of their engines, turbos, transmission, suspension, all that kind of crap, and it's a quarter mile exactly on this drag strip. I use this strip all the time. It's so much fun, and let's see how well these cars do. Hopefully they get pretty decent times. I'm putting my money on the Jester Classic. I feel like it's going to win. Honestly, I always rep the Mark IV, but who knows what'll happen. Let's find out. I honestly expected the Mark 5 Supra or the Jester RR to win this standing quarter mile, but somehow the Jester Classic won, and some of you guys might be wondering how is that even possible? The Jester RR has a higher top speed, it should have won. Well, don't forget, that's not the only thing that matters in a standing quarter mile or just a drag race in general. The acceleration plays a huge part, and we're going to take a look at that in just a minute. But in terms of this, in terms of a standing quarter mile between these two cars, the Jester Classic took the W, tying the scores up now 1-1. Taking a look at the acceleration here of the Jester RR right off the line, you could see it loses so much traction right away. Now this plays a part in drag races a ton, because if you don't have a lot of traction off the line, you're obviously not going to do that well in races. Just like in real life, you take a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, that shit's got a ton of horsepower, but it loses so much traction off the line and it's so heavy, it honestly just doesn't do well in most drag races, and cars with way less horsepower end up beating it out. Take a look at the Jester Classic, take a look at that. It has so much traction, it only loses traction for a split second, gains it back right away, and then takes off with full traction. That's what you want from a car in a drag race. So in terms of the acceleration, the Jester Classic actually beats it out as well, making the scores now 2-1 for the Jester Classic. Even though the acceleration off the line for the Jester RR isn't the best, it's still pretty decent in terms of getting to 60 miles per hour. The Jester Classic reaches 60 in about 3.16 seconds, while the Jester RR reaches 0 to 60 in about 3.14 seconds. There's not a huge difference there, but still, it does build up speed much quicker than the Jester Classic. So if you were to actually do a drag race that's longer than about 12 seconds, the Jester RR will end up passing by the Jester Classic. My estimate would be at around 16 seconds after launching, which honestly isn't that bad because it does have a higher top speed, and obviously, you know, it'll build speed faster than the Jester Classic, which is great. So in terms of building up to 60 miles per hour, the Jester RR wins, now making the scores tied up again 2-2. It's still a pretty amazing car, but we're not done testing it yet. Let's take a look at a few other things. One thing the Jester RR does so much better than the Jester Classic is going to be upgrade potential. In terms of the upgrades for the Jester RR, it has a total of 229 different upgrades available for it. 85 interior/engine mods, 16 liveries, 15 spoiler options, 13 front bumper options, 12 rear bumper options, 10 skirt options, 14 exhaust options, and the list goes on and on. Compared to the Jester Classic, it only has 66 upgrades, which kind of sucks. The upgrades are 5 interior upgrades, and those are literally only roll cages. It has 11 liveries, 11 spoilers, 13 front bumper options, 5 rear bumper options, 3 skirt options, and 5 exhaust options. So obviously it does not have the same upgrade potential whatsoever as the Jester RR, which kind of sucks because when you really think about it, this is a tuner's update. I would have honestly expected Rockstar to add some more stuff for the Jester Classic, because when you really think about it, I personally see the Jester Classic or the Mark 4 Supra more of a tuner car compared to the Mark 5 Supra or the Jester RR, because, you know, I don't know, that's just what I see. I'm not sure if you guys agree with me or not, but when I think about a tuner car and I'm thinking about a Supra, I don't think about the Mark 5, I think about the Mark 4, so it's kind of strange that it has way less upgrade potential than the Jester RR. But we're still going to give the W to the Jester RR in terms of upgrade potential, putting it ahead now 3-2. It's now time for the track test. Now this isn't any ordinary track. This racetrack is actually a drift track, which makes it extremely hard to race on, and we used the Jester RR and the Jester Classic. I took a full lap around the entire thing, I got both the times, and I drove both the vehicles and really felt how they performed, and I'm going to give you the pros and cons of both of them here, because this is what really matters the most between these two cars if you want to use them for racing. So let's get into it, first talking about the Jester Classic. The Jester Classic honestly did pretty damn well when I was driving it around. I didn't really have too many issues. There was one main thing that popped up, and that's the fact that the rear of the car was kind of flying out every once in a while when I was going around turns, and the reason why is because it's honestly a fairly light car. When I compare it to other cars that I drive around, a lot of other cars feel a lot heavier. This one kind of feels like it's gliding, I guess, while driving and going around turns. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The speed keeps up. It doesn't really slow down around turns unless unless you actually hold the brake and stuff. But when you go around a turn, the back end will kind of kick out every once in a while, but it does keep the speed up, which is something that's great. So it does make it a little bit more complicated to drive, and if you do use this car in races and you're new to the game and you're not used to racing, you're definitely going to have a lot of issues with it, just because that back end kicking out like that will obviously make you spin out if you don't know how to correct it properly. But honestly, it's still a great car, and if you're used to racing, this car will be great for you. You'll definitely be able to fly by a lot of people. The Jester RR honestly did an amazing job as well. In my opinion, I say it's a lot better for beginners. The reason why is because the car feels really heavy. Now, like I said, some people may like that and some people may not like that. The benefit of it feeling heavier is the fact that you have a lot more control of it. It sticks to the ground. While I was driving it around, the back end only kicked out like 1 or 2 times, and that was honestly when the pavement was kind of uneven at the end of this little short clip. But there is a downside for it feeling a little bit heavier. It does not go around turns as well as the Jester Classic does. Obviously, if you're more experienced at racing in GTA 5, it doesn't really matter if the car feels a lot lighter, because you'll be able to correct it very easily. But with the Jester RR, since you really don't need to do too much correction while you're driving, it'll honestly just go around those turns fairly slow, and you'll really need to slow down because it doesn't turn as sharp as some other vehicles like the Jester Classic, mainly because the rear end doesn't really kick out. But like I said, it's great for beginners still, and once again, this car picks up speed very quickly. So even though you slow down around that turn, you're going to pick up your speed again very, very quickly. So now that I told you about this, let's take a look at the lap times. You guys can watch the clips and see exactly how they did. I tried my best while racing. Let's take a look. So here it is, me driving around this entire track in both of these vehicles, and I was trying my absolute best, pretending this was a race and my life depended on it. The Jester Classic got a time of 2 minutes and 8 seconds, and the Jester RR also got a time of 2 minutes and 8 seconds. You could see the points where the Jester RR thrives, and you could see the points where the Jester Classic thrives. The Jester RR thrives mainly on those really sharp turns because, like I said, it sticks to the ground, the back end does not kick out that much, and honestly it builds up speed fairly quickly, where the Jester Classic doesn't really do that. You saw the back end kicking out, it was losing traction, and that's where the Jester RR kind of took over. But on those regular turns where they weren't too sharp, that's where the Jester Classic really started to pass by the Jester RR, mainly because, you know, like I said, it feels a lot heavier when you drive the Jester RR, so going around those turns, it slows down a little bit. When the Jester Classic goes around it, it doesn't really slow down, the back end kicks out a bit, but if you're a veteran racer, I guess, in GTA 5, you'll be able to correct it fairly easily like I was doing in these clips. Like I said, I'm a pretty great racer in GTA 5, I've been doing it for a very long time, but nobody's perfect, and you will mess up, and you could see the points where I did end up messing up with the Jester Classic, and obviously I'm not going to cut that out or try to do it over again, just because then it wouldn't really seem real, because you could see exactly where I messed up, so that'll end up happening to you. Even though one car might go around turns slower, the other car might go around turns faster, and vice versa, depending on the track layout, in the end, both cars finished at the exact same time. When it comes down to it, it's personal preference, but at the same time, it's not. Because I've been racing for a little while, and I'm pretty decent at it, at least I think I am, and when I used the Jester Classic, even though I messed up one time, I still did pretty decent. If you're new to the game, you're most likely going to mess up a lot more than I did, which will result in you, not finishing in a high position. If you're new and you really haven't been racing too much, when that back end kicks out, you're gonna lose. Deadass. You're literally just going to screw your whole race up, and you're going to be pissed off, and you're not going to want to play the game anymore. And obviously, you don't want that to happen because you're here to have fun, and you don't want to get pissed. So if you're new to the game, the Jester RR would be perfect for you. Even though you'll lose a little bit of speed on those turns that aren't too sharp, any of those turns that are really sharp, you will thrive, and that's where you'll be able to get a big boost. Or of course, you could start practicing with a car that kicks out a little bit more, that's a little bit harder to drive, and slowly learn. But there will be a lot of mistakes that pop up, and you will get mad, I'm telling you that right now. But there are also a ton of other factors in play here, like the upgrade potential. The Jester RR has way more upgrades available for it than the Jester Classic, so if you really want to customize the car, the Jester RR will definitely be better for you. And in terms of some other things, like acceleration off the line, the Jester Classic is better. In terms of building up speed, the Jester RR is better. So there's benefits to both of the cars, and there's cons to both of the cars. So when it comes down to it, It's personal preference. I think they're both amazing. I don't think one is terrible, and I don't think one is way better than the other. They're both great cars. Let me know what you guys think of them down below in the comments section, and if you had to pick one for everything you wanted, for upgrades, for racing, in actual races and in drag races, which of these two cars would you pick in the end? Hopefully this video helped you guys out if you were considering purchasing one of the Supras in GTA 5. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to turn on post notifications and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to enter the giveaway down below in the description, and I will catch you guys in the next video. By the way, be sure to check out DigiZani. They'll hook you up with tons of discounted games, gaming accessories, discounted gift cards, and in-game currency for dozens of your favorite games. Don't forget to use code Frolics at checkout for a 10% discount.